Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year. From your boys over at Veterans Minimum, I'm your host, Nick Deus, at The Lame Show is where you can find me. At Veterans Minimum is where you can find the show everywhere. In front of me, I have some New Year's resolutions, some New Year's goals for the show. But, as always, my guy, ALLEN_ Sturk. What up, baby?
2020, we're here.
We are here. We made it through 2019. Overall thoughts on 2019? Good year, bad year, in between? Where you at?
I would say in between. I enjoyed everything about Jorge Masvidal becoming the superstar that he is now, and I thought it was a good football season. Like I remember 2017 was a real down year. Like I remember the first 10 weeks, like points were down, just maybe because a little bit of protesting brought it down because there's like a lot of negativity towards just football and just all of this tension. But last year, but especially this year, just seeing the rise of quarterbacks like Lamar and Russell Wilson becoming like a real MVP candidate. I thought football in general was really good. So maybe a couple of dud weeks, but especially some of the games we had in December. Like one of the awards we're gonna pick is Game of the Year, and it was difficult. Like there were some really good games this year.
I think there is one definitive Game of the Year we'll get to a little bit later. But yeah, man, I do think we if you guys haven't checked it out yet, I had the year in review. I had the good brother Tim and Impy on the show, and it was cool. We ran through the year, and I actually I believe it was the moment of the year for me was the Masvidal knee.
Had to be.
It had to be, right?
I literally, because we watched it together, I literally stood on a chair and I was just like, that did not just happen. Like it felt like a World Cup moment for me. Just like, is this possible? Just at that moment, just from that angle, it was just insane.
Yeah, dude. So good. All my feelings for that you can listen to on the Year in Review show, cheap plug. But for me, man, 2019 was dope, bro. I gotta say, 2018 sucked. If I had to do a power ranking of the 28 years of my life, 2018 was easily the number one draft pick as far as like what was the worst, and I can't even tell you what the 2 seed would be. Damn. So to go from that to 2019 really being super fucking cool from just a lot of things, I did some growing. I finally figured out what I'm gonna do, which was very fulfilling.
Yeah, it's always important.
Yeah, because for the longest time, man, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was gonna be a cop, I was gonna be a teacher, I was gonna do this, a bunch of shit, and then started doing a podcast, fell in love with that, love doing it to this day, or else I wouldn't be doing it. Taking the next step in my quote unquote 9-to-5 job with my father and I, making an investment in the food truck. And I got my shit in order, man. I cut out a couple of things and people in my life that were holding me back from one way or another. And it was just something I needed to do. And
all encouraging things.
And I feel so good, man. I can honestly say, and to anyone that's going through some shit, I've tweeted this out. I mentioned it before. Like, it's really important to remember that with time, it'll subside. It just will. And I feel like I'm a good example to say that because I'm living that, And like I said, it's been well documented. I'm comfortable with sharing my story too. And yeah, man, it's just, I'm good. I'm happy. You're on board with VM. I sent you a nice little message on New Year's. I'm proud of you and the stuff you've been able to grow and being a part of the show. I sincerely mean that for you being involved and to the guys behind the scenes. You guys know who you are. Alex, Taryn, Phil, Mike, Dom, the editor. Shout out to all you guys. And most importantly, everyone that listens. Coming off a really, really stellar year. We got picked up by a podcast network, which is dope. It's going to open up a lot of doors for the show. We got a dope-ass guest to kick us off the new year. A guy I'm a super big fan of, Danny Kelly from The Ringer. So it's good vibes only. You know what I'm saying?
Damn right. And it's playoff time.
We're coming up on now. It's the granddaddy of them all. We're building towards that. The best teams. It's a good time, man. It's a good time.
And we got big fight in a couple weeks.
Weeks. I'm going to Miami in 2 weeks. Shout out to the 305. Holla at me. I will be down there.
If you run to Masvidal, you better get a picture.
Oh, dude. I'm trying to get Jared to see if he has any connects down in Miami to maybe pull off something. Because I wanna mention what are some of your goals, man. Both personal, with the show. Like, what would you like to do?
I think more it's just kind of branching out. I've been mostly a football guy for my life, although I have dabbled into music and entertainment, working at Billboard. So I think now it's just kind of more finding my niche. I'm still kind of in that transition influx stage where it's just kind of wanting to find more. No, I guess not from identity personally. I know what I want to do. It's just more finding that support system / just being able to take more of the initiative, because there's times, especially when you're a writer working in the industry, you get kind of limited. So like this is like the first season I didn't cover any. I didn't get to travel, so that was kind of disappointing. Because for most part, when I covered the Falcons, I got to travel 2-3 times a year. This is the first year I didn't do any traveling, so I was kind of disappointed. But now it's just trying to figure out ways. Because of course you want to stay creative, you want to keep trying to build your follower list, and just you want to please people. But there's times in life where it's just like the self-acceptance is very key. I think that's one thing I've learned, where it's just like, okay, we're chasing that acceptance. You want people to be on board with your work, but sometimes you just have to realize, is this worth it? Am I really gonna make this sacrifice? So that's kind of like what I'm at right now, just trying to find that balance. But when it comes to this show, I'm very excited to get back in the podcast, because I've been out of the game for like 2 years, and I think now when you're working in media, I think you need to have some sort of platform. It doesn't necessarily have to be podcasts. If you want to do video, if you want to do radio, which I know radio might not be those popular things these days, but if you're on like Sirius or CBS, whatever it may be, do your thing. But I think if you're working in media, you need to have some sort of digital outlet. You can't just prioritize on writing, because writing's great, and if you want people to be enamored with your work, but I think you have to have some sort of digital platform. So that's why I'm really grateful to be with Veterans Minimum, and just glad to be doing podcasts, especially with you, someone I have a really good rapport with, because that's also very important.
Nah, man, for sure. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, but you need that pat on the back. You need that validation.
Yeah.
Whether it might be an ego thing or a pride thing, where you're like, oh, I could do it myself. It's like, no, you can't. Right. Well, I gotta say, you're one of the big reasons why I even made the move to Blue Wire, because you're like, yo, man, look, being independent is dope. The do-it-yourself thing, it's cool, but kind of felt like I hit my ceiling as a quote-unquote indie darling.
Yeah.
Right. So we needed to make a move, and it was cool because the show took a turn, and I took control of the show. And it was very validating to see, like, yo, this shit works. Not going out on Friday nights and Saturday nights to stay home and think of ideas to shoot videos and whatnot. Like a lot of people, it might seem like sudden changes to people. Like now we have the Patreon coming up, right? Like I've been doing this stuff for 4 months now. It's all sports betting and DFS. Well, that has ended, and we're trying to, create some new content for the Patreon members. And this isn't a plug. This is like, yo, Alan and I have been talking about this since like the beginning of October.
Right.
It's like you don't want to just. It might seem like it's coming out of nowhere, but there's been a blueprint laid down. There's a foundation laid down. There's a lot of discussion being done, and that's just how it has to be done, man. And I got big goals. You mentioned traveling. I want to travel once a month for this show. Bring you with me, go places, right? It doesn't need to be crazy, but I want to do more interviews in person, because like the in-person shit is always better.
Nothing can replace it. Just that experience.
I'm a big vibe and energy guy, right? And this is pre-recorded. We've pre-recorded the interview with Danny Kelly. Like that shit was dope. But imagine if we had him in person. Right. Like if it was awesome over the phone, in person it's just way better. So I want to do stuff like that. I want to go and visit certain places for the show, like I mentioned. I want to grow the Patreon. I want to maybe build a website. I want to get media credentials. Shout out to all the fans. You guys are continuing to support. Just the networking stuff, So I'm excited. I'm pumped. I want to get a studio. I was telling you, I have an idea.
That's the next step.
Come September. Like right now, it's cool, but this setup right now is in my home office in my basement. But it's just a hassle having to put up this step and repeat and moving the tables around and all that. It's like I want to just have a place where I could just set this shit up and never have to move anything, So like that's my goal for next football season. So everything we're doing now, I got to build towards that, So
trust the process.
Trust the process. Be patient with it. Anyone that's doing some shit that's unconventional. Someone called me unconventional the other day, and I kind of fucked with it.
That's a compliment.
Yeah. I was like, because that's exactly it, So
if you're conventional, that probably means you're generic, and it's like,
don't be. I mean, look, if you want to be that, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not for me. So, yeah, man, I'm pumped. Shout out to everyone. My goals are well documented, and so are Alan's, and let's ready to rock and roll, man, for 2020 and beyond. All right. Let's get into some football, shall we?
Playoffs.
First up, these two teams played in the regular season, right? Houston and Buffalo. I think they played week 6.
That game totally went over my head if they did.
Let me just check that because I want to say that it is a rematch. And the reason why is because our guy Taryn, shout out to Taryn.
No, they didn't play.
You sure?
I'm looking at the schedule right now.
Bro,
the only AFC East team they played was the Patriots.
You sure they didn't play in week 6? Because Taryn has it that they played in week 6.
No, they beat the Chiefs in week 6.
Taryn, you fuck. You ruined it.
They blew out the Falcons in week 5 when Will Fuller for 1 week looked like Jerry Rice, and then they beat the Chiefs in that very impressive win.
Mm-hmm. All right, so scratch that, I guess. Thanks a lot, Taryn, you piece of trash. All right, so it's a 2.5-point line. Houston Texans are favored. Something very interesting to note, it is the first start for one Josh Allen in the playoffs. It's going to be a common theme throughout every game that we're going to break down, Allen, that I think is important because last year...
Well, except Vikings Saints.
Vikings Saints, correct. You're right. Last year, 3 players made their first ever start in the playoffs. Do you remember them?
You have Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
You have... Wow, why am I blanking on this one right now? Oh, not that. No, Dak Prescott was 2016 against
right.
the playoffs. Oh, man, why am I blanking on this right now?
Come on, he's the MVP this year.
Oh, of course, Lamar Jackson couldn't complete a pass. And the almighty, everyone's favorite, apparently Ryan Pace confirmed it, starting quarterback in 2020, Mitchell Trubisky.
Congratulations. So all those quarterbacks that Allen mentioned, first-time starters last year, all 3 of them having the benefit of playing in front of their home.
I don't want to say poor Trubisky, but the Bears really should have won that.
Yeah. I mean, he had one good drive at the end.
Yeah.
All 3 of those guys that we mentioned lost. Since 2000, quarterbacks making their first ever start in the playoffs. 14-30 straight up. 12-31-1 against the spread since 2003. This year, we have Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill, who was not the starter in that Pittsburgh game. Remember, he got hurt.
It was Matt Moore.
And it was the chosen one, Impy's Lord and Savior, Matt Moore, coming in.
Chosen one.
And then we have the one and only Carson Wentz also. So, Josh Allen, do you think he's a guy, does he strike you as a guy where this stage might be too big for him? Or you think he's just a guy that's like kind of too dumb for his own good to not like realize that it's that big of a game? And I mean that in like a nice way.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I do think the cage is too big for him, but then again, Josh Allen's just this player that's so high variance and he's so fearless, especially when
that's what I'm saying. Like his style is so reckless,
Yeah.
but in a good way, where it's like
I don't know if it's always in a good way.
right. But I'm saying like I kind of like I like a guy like Josh Allen. I want my quarterback to have some balls and put it in a tight window because then I have Alex Smith, who's going to 3rd and 8, or Eli Manning, last 4 years of his career, 3rd and 8, 2-yard check down to a running back.
He's just so racked, Josh Allen. That's the problem, whether it's overthrowing his receivers or just putting the ball in harm's way. Like, I think what benefits the Bills is just they have a defense that can be relied upon. You know the Bills' defense is not going to get overwhelmed. They're going to keep the game competitive regardless of who they're going up against. So that's what benefits Josh Allen. He has that leeway. It's like, okay, I could turn the ball over twice, but his defense probably hold opponent to, 20 points, 24 points at most. Like, if you're going to beat the Bills, you're going to have to scheme some things up. Like you got what the Patriots did a couple weeks ago, getting Rex Burkhead into open space and some things they do in the Kill Harry. Now, granted, the Texans do have a ton of skilled position talent in terms of what they have on the outside receivers, but this Bills defense, they're so deep, and I think that's why I think it's a really good litmus test to see where Bill O'Brien's at, because I feel like this time every year it's like, it's Bill O'Brien. He's going to be another dud. They're just known for those duds. And now he's going up against a real top defensive mind coach, Sean McDermott, who has a lot of play experience. He's a big part of the Carolina Panthers' success. So I think that's one of the more interesting storylines is both these coaches coming from 2 separate sides of the ball.
Is it possible that this is a realization to the Texans? Because I think so. I like Buffalo in this game. Ooh. And I think that Will Fuller is a game time decision, but there was a report from Evan Silva. Someone from the Texans said that it's very unlikely that he plays. And I think Will Fuller huge for what he does for Watson. Like the splits with him in the lineup and not a lineup are significant. And then, Tre'Davious White on DeAndre Hopkins. This dude hasn't allowed a single receiving touchdown this year. The only guy in the NFL. And he's going up against some good guys too, And obviously, I think that's the most important matchup is whoever gets the better of that matchup is going to be big because who's going to get it done for the Texans if it's not D-Hop?
Kenny Stills could do his thing. I always like Kenny Stills. I know he's more of I don't want to say gadget player, but he's more someone, he only gets 4 to 6 targets. He's not someone that we totally rely upon. Kiki Kuti is kind of falling out of favor. Maybe it's a big game for Duke. Who knows?
Well, because you mentioned Rex Burkhead, and my mind went right away to Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
A very similar kind of out the backfield kind of guy. But, I do think that this might be this is our ceiling game. And what I mean by that is if Houston loses, it's like, do we maybe move off Bill O'Brien? Look, it's going to be hard because they've won the division, I think it was 4 of the last 5 years.
It's just we've been saying this almost every year now, and they don't do it. And I do think Deshaun Watson really likes Bill O'Brien. They have a really good rapport. Because I think Watson's the one that backed them up because they were going to fire him in 2017, but Watson's like, no, you have to keep him. So that's what they made work. We also to point out J.J. Watt.
Word.
That's exciting. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but it's going to be exciting.
The second best Watt brother.
I guess we have to say that now.
There you go. Finally.
T.J. Watt, we're going to do awards next episodes. He might be mentioned.
Baller.
Yeah.
So, he comes back graded at 89.6 when he was healthy. Surprisingly, not one of the highest grades of his career, which, says a lot because 89.6 according to PFF is pretty high. But when you're looking at the grades for the quarterbacks, Watson comes in at 9, Allen comes in at 25. What are you looking at in this game, man? Who are you leaning with?
I'm going to lean towards Houston. I just trust Watson more to make enough plays. And even though Houston's defense is kind of fragile, I just can't trust Josh Allen at this point. Like Josh Allen, he'll make a couple of big throws. We saw that in the New England game, hit John Brown, and then I think it was Dawson Knox or some other tight end. Like Josh Allen will make 2 or 3 wow throws, but that's not enough to rely upon when it comes to a quarterback. I thought Allen missed a fair amount of throws against New England, and I just can't trust him when it comes to like the 3rd and 6 or say some sort of like situation when they're in the red zone. It's just unless they scheme some stuff up where, okay, he'll take a couple quarterback draws to get big plays, maybe that'll work out, but it's just that's where it comes down to because I do think that defense is going to give Watson some problems. They're probably going to blitz the hell out of Watson. But I'm going to trust Houston's star talent. I think they do have enough, especially firepower. Because they're going to move Hopkins around. I want to see if Tre'Davious White will follow into the slot because Hopkins will run out of the slot as well. So, I'm leaning towards Houston. Not overly confident because I'm not a Bill O'Brien guy, but I'm going to lean Houston.
I do think that the Bills wide receivers got some favorable matchups going up against that secondary.
Yeah, if Jonathan Joseph's isolated and John Brown, it's going to be very problematic. Jonathan Joseph's like 38 and cannot move anymore.
Yeah, and John Brown could definitely get behind you. Like that's a guy who's, I think he's
great
had
story.
Yeah, 50 yards in every game, but I think one, or he's had. It's either been like remember Devontae Adams last year. He either had like 80 yards
and a touchdown
or a touchdown in every single game. I think John Brown, his number's like 50.
Yeah. Some people thought his career was gonna be over. He had the sickle cell issue.
Right.
Then he went to Baltimore. When ironically Flacco was playing, he had like a real good season, but then once Lamar came in, things kind of fizzled out. But just see him in Buffalo, him and Cole Beasley, it's a funky little duo over there.
Oh man, I'm actually like, this is the game I'm the least confident in picking a side of the 4 games this weekend.
I feel like it's more exciting. It's more exciting than your standard Texans 4:35 playoff game, which has become the new standard.
Yeah.
I am pretty much looking forward to this game. I do think both these teams are exciting. I guess the only thing I dread is just having to listen to Booger, but what are we gonna do?
What about this could be a big game for Watson too, like as far as like his career. Like
it's his second playoff game.
No, I understand, but it was so bad last year. And I know there were a couple of drops. I remember
he got totally outcoached.
Yeah, Frank Wright, Andrew Luck. What could have been? I'm going to go with Buffalo, though. Go with Buffalo to circle the wagon and move on to the next round. This game, I'm getting a lot of heat for it.
Game of the weekend.
I took to Twitter, like everyone does, to give out a take. And my whole thing was this, Alan, and tell me how you feel about this. I think the Pats are losing this weekend.
Same here.
And the only argument people are making with me is Yo, it's New England. Don't fall for the trap, bro. They're not showing their cards, bro. They're
It's all the bros.
yeah, they're you're gonna bet against New England in the playoffs. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Because what's their best win?
Such generalities. Either Buffalo or Philly. And the Philly one wasn't overly impressive.
The Dallas game, sure, you play that at home, big deal. Right? Every good team you've played, you got pummeled.
I think Mother Nature won that game.
Right. Every good team you played, you've lost to. I think their team's been overrated all year. I was saying it on the show months ago when they were like 8-0 and they were going on this run and best defense ever. It's like Case Keenum, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who just beat him, by the way, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones.
Can we put Baker Mayfield in there? Is that controversial?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger, who ended up getting hurt. Like, they just played a bunch of shitty teams, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pummel them. You're supposed to blow them out.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's the Patriots. My bad. It's not enough for me to pick them. It's not. Because
They still got the coaching staff, but just the personnel right now. That offense couldn't look more pedestrian. That offense is a tough watch. And this Titans defense, it's one of the more underappreciated units across in the league.
What does New England do well offensively?
They could scheme up plays, maybe get Edelman going in a slot, or maybe this could be a James White game. I feel like James White's been kind of an afterthought this year. And maybe Rex Burkhead going because Sanu doesn't look healthy. You can't rely on Philip Dorsett. N'Keal Harry's the one rookie receiver that doesn't do anything special. So that offense, and the offense line isn't as stabilized as it once was. So that's really concerning. Look, I think their defense will give Tannehill some problems, but it's just right now you look at the star power, and it's crazy to use that word star power with Tennessee because it's funny. Like we talked about this all year. Like the Titans were never really mentioned on our episodes. Like they were the one team we wouldn't really talk about because all right, it's the Titans. They're kind of the dullest team in the league. Now you have the running back king. You have the most prolific rookie wide receiver. And you have this resurgent quarterback that was kind of he was kind of a castaway. So it's a real fun story. And here's another thing you have to consider. Who's the coach of Tennessee?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Vrabel. And last year, Belichick against not just him, but Matt Patricia in Detroit. Both those games, the Patriots lost definitively. So I don't know what's this thing with former assistants or former players of Belichick that kind of get after him. But last year, they got blown out by Tennessee. And Detroit handled them too.
Yo, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, youtube.com/veteransminimum, my hands are on my head because that was the Corey Davis game. Remember, Gilmore was the number one corner in football.
He's still good, solid.
No, I know, but Corey Davis cooked them.
Uh-huh.
It was remember when Stevie Johnson was on the Bills?
Oh, he torched Revis.
And it's every year Revis will shut down Reggie Wayne, Randy Moss, stud wide receiver, Calvin Johnson, Chad Johnson. And then it's Stevie Johnson, 8 for 154 and 1. You're what the fuck is going on? So when Corey Davis lit up Stephon, Corey Davis, that was his best game of his career. He had 10 catches, I want to say over 100 yards. Mariota was the quarterback. Yeah. And you're right, there's something about that. And I also think New England, you could run on New England. Even the Browns, remember that Browns game? Nick Chubb was breaking 25 yarders and he fumbled 3 times. Yeah. But there was one run, he ran for 60 yards and he got hit from behind.
They've been doing better. Saffold's sign was really big for them.
But the Titans, obviously, they want to run the ball. They have the number one running back in football. I mean, he was the number one rusher.
Yeah, per yards.
Most yards in the league, Derrick Henry. And that's their identity. And I think Tannehill's going to not kill him. I think Tannehill's going to do enough. He's played New England in the past. I think that's something. Yeah. Now, again, this is a first-time start for Ryan Tannehill. That's big. But, I'm sorry. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll take it on the chin. I don't mind. But if it's not this week, it's next week. And a part of me wants it to be next week for New England when they got to go into Kansas City because it's important to remember that if New England and New Orleans win, they know who they're playing next week, where everything else And
you're getting classic matchups.
Right.
Even though it's New England team, obviously not much elite team, but still on paper it's fun.
Looking ahead a little bit, New England would have to go into Kansas City, and I feel like it'd be such poetic justice for them to put a dagger in the Patriots once and for all, Andy Reid. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
This Titans team is must-watch. I love watching this Titans. We even mentioned Jonnu Smith, who other than George Kittle might be the best tight end after a catch. I know Belichick today said John Smith's the best tight end after a catch. I'm let's watch George Kittle. But besides that, I think John Smith's another guy that who would have thought he probably wouldn't have played a lot of snaps if it wasn't for Delaney Walker, who's now on IR.
I just don't see what New England could do. Like, Edelman's not even that healthy. And shit, you look at Edelman, his last like 7 playoff games, and I know it might hurt you a little bit, but he's been balling. Like, he's
definitely has been balling.
I think his worst game, he has like 8 catches or something. It's like something ridiculous. Like, this guy is just, he always shows up in the playoffs. I have a super controversial take where I think like his playoff resume alone should put him in the discussion for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you and Nate Burleson.
So shout out to the wide receivers. That's why. But dude, I think, in years past, it's like, we have Gronk and we've been saving Gronk. And you would see that where it's like, we're going to unleash Gronk 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 moments of regular season, right? We'll unleash Gronk like against a Kansas City, against a Baltimore, against a Houston team, like an up and coming team, right? And then it's like he's very pedestrian. And then like they would unleash him in the playoffs. I mean, shit, that game against Kansas City, it was Edelman and Gronk whenever they needed to play, which
that
was crazy to me. Yeah. It's crazy to me. It's like, dude, they've been doing this for a decade. Like, Brady goes to these 2 guys. Like, Edelman converted 3 third and longs in that overtime game. And it's like, how do you not double cover the one guy that can make a play for them? Yeah. And I think he's hobbled. And you can't run on Tennessee too. Tennessee's pretty good against the run.
And they use Elman a slot. Who's the tight slot corner? Logan Ryan.
Knows him. They know him. Yeah. Kind of thing. Man, I just think
it's a shame Malcolm Butler's out for a year because Malcolm Butler loved to get back at Belichick after the whole Super Bowl.
Right.
We have only 1 for Pat. Maybe Deion Lewis can make an impact. I know his snaps are kind of limited, but he's still a threat. I love watching Deion Lewis. It's unfortunate that he's now with Derrick Henry, but man, I'm excited about Tennessee. I think they've quietly been one of the best stories of the season. Like, that offense is really fun to watch, and especially what they do off play action. In particular, like Tannehill might have the best QB rating in the league off play action. That's how good he's been.
So, how do you feel about AJ Brown this week?
I wonder how they're gonna set up because Gilmore got lit up by Devontae Parker, which was pretty extraordinary. Just watching Devontae Parker look like Julio Jones. But look, AJ Brown's a threat, whether it's off play action or if they use him. You saw a screen against Houston. Like, they're gonna use him a variety of different ways. So even though you might be shadowed by Gilmore, they're still going to try to get him the ball as much as possible. And then, you have Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith. They have a lot of weapons. Maybe Adam Humphries will pop up. I'm really high on this Titans team. It would be unfortunate if they crash because, boy, we're going to look like idiots if they just completely fall apart. I think the one issue could be pass protection. They have looked a little bit iffy this year, although I do think Mariota was a big reason for it because Mariota hold on to the ball way too long. I think Tannehill, who's an impressive athlete, by the way. Tannehill isn't enough credit. Like, he's one of those white quarterbacks. He
was a wide receiver in college.
I know, but people just kind of sleep on, like, they just sleep on Tannehill in general.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really excited. I think the only way New England really wins is, of course, they have to out-scheme them, but also if just Tannehill falters, and I just, it's going to sound cliche, but if New England wins the turnover battle and, if they start generating pressure, because I do think they're going to try to blitz Tannehill more than they blitz other teams, but I got to go with Tennessee.
New England has never gone to the Super Bowl playing this weekend.
Yeah, because I remember, what was it, in 2009? That was the Ray Rice game.
The Ray Rice game. There was another time early New England.
This is like 05, 06.
Yeah, like Jake Plummer, New England.
Oh, man.
Sorry, Jake Plummer, Denver.
Man.
Yo.
Yeah, who had the pick, and then he got hit at the 1 yard line as a touchdown?
Ben Watson.
Oh.
Sorry.
Who's playing this weekend?
Ben Watson tracked down Champ Bailey.
That's right. Oh,
and dude, that is one of the greatest football plays you'll ever see. This guy, I'm going to try to find the clip, but Bailey gets the pick in the red zone. In the end zone. In Mile High.
Yeah.
Is returning it, and Ben Watson is on like the other pylon and just perfect pursuit. Like, if you want to do pursuit 101, like backside tackling, this dude chases him down, takes him down at like the 1 yard line. But yeah, New England has never made it to the Super Bowl. I believe they've made it to the conference final one time playing this weekend. So that's another thing you got to factor in with New England. Like, in the past you say, hey, they got it. They're the Patriots. They don't have that extra week to prepare. And there's a team that could really use that extra week with Brady being older, Edelman being banged up.
Yeah. And play a red-hot team that didn't have to break much of a sweat against Houston because Houston played their
And
backups.
if you think about it, they kind of had a bye week with the Saints. Like, remember that Saints game? They rested Derrick Henry. I mean, I know he's the only one that rested.
I don't think that was a bye week because they lost that, and they could have been affect their playoff hopes.
Well, here's the thing. It turned out where that game against Houston would have been for all the marbles, because what ended up happening was the tiebreaker in the AFC. They had the tiebreaker over everyone else in the AFC, and since the Saints was out of conference,
okay,
that's why they sat Derrick Henry.
Gotcha. Okay,
man, I'm going with the Titans.
I'm going to Titans too. I'm really excited about them. I sometimes you just have to look at personnel. It's not all about coaching. Look, Belichick's the god and everything, but I think Mike Vrabel's done a hell of a job. He's another one of those defensive coaches where it's like, okay, it's not all about these new offensive gurus. You can hire a defensive mind coach and still be successful. And I think Vrabel and Sean McDermott have both proven that.
24-10 Tennessee.
Wow. I would say like 24-17.
24-10.
Oh, man. Oh, jeez. Brady retirement headlines. Oh, I don't know if I want to look at them.
All right, let's move on to Saints Vikings. What are you looking at over there? What do you got?
Looking at the Houston, Texas schedule from last year. Apparently, our buddy Taryn made a little bit of a mistake.
Taryn, you're fired. No, it was a mistake.
It turns out the Bills that Texas played back in 2018. Houston beat them 20-13. I forgot the Texans started out 0-3 last year.
Was that week 6?
That was week 6.
Taryn, you piece of trash. Good call. Just say you're off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Oh, dude, the Texans were 0-3 and
Giants
they banged
beat
out.
them.
Yeah.
That's when you know things are rough.
Oh boy. Oh boy. And then they won 9 straight.
Man.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, let's get into Saints and the Vikings. As Alan had just noticed. Question, what's with the Viking thing? Is it just like anyone but the Saints?
Oh, well, the Vikings are my second team.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother was a huge fan growing up, although he's kind of scarred now. Ever since far through that pick, he kind of gave up on football. He'll occasionally watch, like he did watch the Minneapolis.
Wow, rematch also. I
yeah,
forgot about that.
A lot of history in this.
Holy shit, a lot of crazy endings to games.
You got the Favre pick, you got Diggs. It's one of the best play-by-play guys in the, I think, just sports period is Paul Allen from Minnesota. He's the guy who coined the Minneapolis Miracle phrase. If you want to look up another thing on YouTube, just look up Paul Allen's reaction to Brett Favre's interception. He goes, "This isn't Detroit. This is the NFC Championship. The Vikings are trying to go to the Super Bowl." He's just freaking out as far through the interception. And of course, it's just Brett Favre throwing across his body. So yeah, this game has a lot of history to it. And I think it's always been a fun matchup, but the fact that it's in New Orleans now just brings back memories. And when you think about it, it's actually, 10 years because it was the 2009 season, but 2010 playoffs this year, 19, 20. Now this is in the conference championships, and Minnesota isn't quite the same. But, yeah, this is a fun matchup. But, no, I do genuinely like the Vikings. I grew up loving Culpepper and Moss. My first ever football jersey was Randy Moss. Then it was Jamal Anderson, former running back.
Let's go.
Dirty Bird. But Randy Moss is like my all-time favorite player. So, yeah, I do have a soft spot for Minnesota, although I think this is the most lopsided game out of the 4.
Question. Do you remember Brett Favre's last throw as a Packer?
Was that to Corey Webster?
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Brett Favre.
How you like I know the player too.
In typical Brett Favre fashion, his last pass attempt as a Packer intercepted. Man. Shout out to Corey Webster. All right. You think the most lopsided game of the weekend?
Yeah.
So you're thinking.
I've been high on the Saints all year.
Right.
Yeah.
So this might be the most important question to ask you. The Saints are an 8-point favorite. You saying that you're confident you think they blow them out? Like, what kind of vibes are you getting from this game?
I think the issue with the Vikings, everyone's going to point out, okay, Kirk Cousins on the road, high-profile matchup, he's going to crack. I think the biggest issue with the Vikings, the secondary is just not good anymore. Like Xavier Rhodes, we've been talking about his decline. Trey Wayne's always been an issue. Even I don't even think Harrison is playing at the same level. And it's just right now, we've been kind of talking. Oh, last year was the case, but not so much this year. Drew Brees is playing really well. Like, I thought he looked incredible against Tennessee. All right, he did his thing against Carolina, but Drew Brees, that decline hasn't been there this year.
I want to take this time to apologize on.
I probably got to apologize too.
An all-time bad take saying the Saints are going to make the playoffs.
Oh, I didn't say that.
and also by saying that, I felt like Drew Brees was a shot fighter because. Dude, not for nothing. This time last year, he did look a little shaky.
No, he did.
After that,
absolutely.
Fuck, who did they play on Thursday Night Football?
Well, I know they played the Falcons on Thanksgiving. That was kind of
there was another one, and then they played someone else.
Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah, he did
Dallas.
look bad.
They were like an 8-point favorite in Dallas. I remember I gave out the Cowboys. Shout out to me. But he looked so bad. And then after that, like his numbers kind of declined.
There was a Monday night game against Carolina. They barely beat a bad Carolina team.
Yeah. So, and then he just looked shaky. You know, like his arm strength wasn't there. He's 40 years old also. So I thought that was going to be a big part of it. But then, something very important. He missed about 6 weeks of the season, came back, and dude, he's been on fire the last 7 weeks.
He's been really impressive. That Monday night game against the Colts, he was just wherever the ball went, it just landed in the hands, whether it was Michael Thomas or Jared Cook. But I think having a playmaking tight end again has really helped them. Like Drew Brees, kind of like Tom Brady. Like I wonder if the Patriots wish they could have got Jared Cook, because Jared Cook, shaky hands, could be a little frustrated, but that guy's a freak athlete, and he's going to make plays, especially after a catch. I think signing Jared Cook, you put him with Michael Thomas, Ted Ginn still threat. Traquan Smith's getting the ball a lot more now too. It's just that offense is looking threatening, and Kamara's healthy.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think for me, it's he's definitely finally healthy. These last 2 weeks, he's scored multiple touchdowns. And in the fantasy community, you always have like touchdown regression. Like I think a guy next year to just be cautious about a little bit is like Aaron Jones, right? Like this dude scored 18 touchdowns. I think he led the NFL in touchdowns. It's like him and McCaffrey.
Yeah, Henry had like 16.
Right. It's like you can't bank on these guys to score 20 touchdowns a year.
Like Tyler Lockett last year.
Right. Tyler Lockett last year had 10 touchdowns. And
I think like 14 or something.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
Like, Darius Slayton this year, he scored 8 touchdowns. It's like, you're not going to get like, that's just, even Julio, dude. Like Julio, year in, year out, he's like a top wide receiver in the game, but his touchdowns are always up in the air. So it's just something that you can't bank on. Eric Ebron last year led the
Oh my God, Eric Ebron.
Yeah. So here's something very interesting. Eric Kendricks, according to PFF, a lot of analysts have picked him for Defensive Player of the Year. He's questionable. Highest grade of any Minnesota Vikings defensive player. And you mentioned the defense. Secondary shaking up. Are you familiar with their schedule?
I'm looking at it right now, and wow, there are quite a lot of below average / quarterbacks that shouldn't be in the league on this list.
Chase Daniel, Sir Daniel Jones, Case Keenum, Matt Moore, Kyle Allen, David Blow, Mitchell Trubisky. And they don't have a single corner that grades over 50.
And the big concern is, okay, everyone's going to bring up their pass rush. Danielle Hunter, stud. Everson Griffin still get the job done. New Orleans offensive line still one of the top units in the league. They do not allow a lot of pressure. Ramczyk and Armstead, as good as it gets when it comes to tackles. That's where, like, okay, maybe the Vikings will blitz a lot more, but the Saints are one of the best screen teams in the game. Like, they know how to put together screens, whether it's through Kamara or if they go to outside with Thomas or Smith. If the Vikings can't generate pressure, I just think Drew Brees is going to torch them. And then offensively, that offense line is very shaky. And even though New Orleans, okay, they lost Rankins and Davenport, but still Cam Jordan's is lethal as a guy. That guy, you could put him across the line of scrimmage, he's going to cause problems. I just think there's so many matchups that favor New Orleans. The only way I can see Minnesota doing well is just if Dalvin Cook goes off and they dominate the time possession. I think this is the type of game that it's like, okay, if you could control the ball, if you got to quote-unquote establish the run, which, Mike Zimmer being as old school as he is, he'll do it. They just have to force some turnovers and run the ball effectively. Otherwise, I just don't see how they could contain that New Orleans offense.
Yeah, Adam Thielen don't look himself. I think
I'm excited to watch Diggs though.
Right. Oh man, I could definitely see them like completely trying to put the clamps on him and like, yo, you're not gonna get shit.
I wonder how much Janoris Jenkins is gonna play.
Dude, what about the starting secondary for the New York Giants this year, week 1, is playing in this game.
You have him with Lattimore. It's just the thing is, I'm not sure how much you're gonna see field because Minnesota. I'm not sure what the exact stat is, but they do not play a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Mm-hmm. They're notorious for running 2 tight sets with Rudolph and Irv Smith. They're just very old school, and they just don't have the depth to have those 2 receivers. So maybe it won't matter as much, but it's just I think New Orleans is firing all cylinders right now. They are such an explosive team, and even though defensively they're a little shaky, it's just Drew Brees, just the way he's playing right now with Michael Thomas. Like there isn't a better rapport right now in the league. Like those 2 are just completely in sync, and Minnesota. Like it would be shocking. Michael Thomas doesn't have like 125 yards out of this game.
Do you think in the NFC more so than the AFC, home field really matters in this playoffs? Because, man, I feel like New Orleans might not get to the Super Bowl because they won't have home field. like looking ahead, if they win this game on Sunday, which it's fair to say we both think so, they're going to go into Green Bay. And if it's like 4 degrees in Green Bay, and, you know, the home road splits are well documented between Drew Brees, like indoors and outdoors.
I think also their defense. For some reason, their defense does not play as good on the road.
But also, I need to push back on everyone that has that take because it's not true since they got Michael Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Since Michael Thomas got there, Drew Brees is a completely different quarterback on the road. Like, he's not what he is in the dome, but he's not as bad. Mm-hmm. And I think that's having a guy like Michael Thomas who does a lot of the dirty work underneath. And that could be Kamara, too. I want to show him some love. But I think it's very important to remember that. I know in 2 instances we're looking ahead, but, man, I think the Saints win.
Yeah,
35-14, 35. I'm expecting a.
We'll see some good old Kirk Cousins garbage time points. No quarterback does garbage time better than Kirk Cousins. Oh, maybe Blake Bortles back in the day, but
that's the reason why I'm a little worried about this 8-point spread because it could be like, you know, it could be 28-14, and there's like 2 minutes left, and Cousins does his usual shit. You know,
I'm excited to see Dalvin Cook. He's been out for the last almost 3 weeks now. Mm-hmm. And he's still someone that could take over a game. I think that's the one thing. If Minnesota could just somehow get him the ball at least 20 times and just somehow control the time possession, if Cousins just doesn't shoot himself in the foot, it could be competitive.
If you're Minnesota, you want to completely duplicate that Sunday Night Football game against the Cowboys, right? Cook had 28 touches, I believe it was.
Right.
It was one of his best games, and also Cousins had the 2 touchdowns to Kyle Rudolph. And it was like, I think he threw the ball maybe 20 times. And it's like, that's exactly what we want from the Vikings. Like, I want Cook to get the ball 25 plus times.
And Gary Kubiak and Zimmer want that too.
Yeah. And just have Kirk Cousins not F this up for us. That's exactly what I think. But I don't think that's going to happen because I think it's going to get ugly in the Superdome.
Going Saints.
All right. Last but not least, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and we're going to talk a little bit about this game in particular with our guy Danny Kelly, who Seahawks fan, and he lives out in the Pacific Northwest. But man, I said this prior to knowing who was going to win that game. I think the Eagles win.
This is going to be a slop fest. I hope you're ready for a big, ugly slop fest. Entertaining.
Yeah. So they played each other in the regular season. Both defenses are bad. Both quarterbacks are doing a lot with a little. And I know Tyler Lockett, got to give him some love. But DK Metcalf also. The first time these two teams played, and I just found this now, we didn't mention it before with Danny Kelly. Dude, you know how many turnovers the Eagles had?
I remember they had a lot of fumbles.
5.
Wow.
3 fumbles and 2
Wentz had an ugly stretch. I remember that Patriots game, he was awful. I think this game.
That was the famous play where Miles Sanders is wide open in the flats, 3 yards from him.
He just air melded.
Yo, that ball landed past the sideline out of bounds, like that white chalk. It landed past that, and Miles Sanders was so wide open. It was one of those plays where Miles Sanders kind of looked at him. He's like, dude, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. He's hurt. I'm not sure if he's playing.
Yeah, Jordan Howard is supposed to come back, which I think might be interesting because this is the kind of game where you might want to pound Jordan Howard.
You could run Seattle.
Right. Yeah. And the secondary for Phillies, they were playing well, and then Jalen Mills got hurt, Darby IR, LeBlanc is the slot corner now. Tyler Lockett should have a field day.
I think they've been very fortunate these last 2 weeks. Talking about Philly's secondary, Prescott missed a lot of throws in that game. He could have hit Gallup at least twice. I think he underthrew him, then he overthrew him, and then he also missed Tavon Austin on a big one. And then last week, I thought Daniel Jones underthrew Sterling Shepard a couple of times.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up.
I thought the Eagles secondary, whether it was LeBlanc or Sidney Jones, they were very fortunate they didn't get torched. And now you're going up against Russell Wilson. It's I don't think you can get bailed out this time around.
Right. And also, this game is at 4:40 as opposed to being a 1 o'clock, so you don't have that body clock thing for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I will say Philadelphia is a very intimidating place. I was there, Eagles-Falcons 2018, and just those fans do not sit down. I was in the press box just looking around this is a really intimidating place. And Eagles, they still have their front four, and Jim Schwartz will blitz as much as possible.
And no Dwayne Brown for the Seahawks.
No, you have George Fant, former basketball player, play left tackle.
So I think this is the biggest of all the quarterbacks this weekend. I think Carson Wentz has the most pressure on him.
Yeah, actually,
He hasn't won a playoff game for them. And he's been...
I think there's a little pressure on Kirk Cousins. I know they're kind of in a lopsided matchup, but I feel like Cousins has to at least do something.
Sure.
And maybe Breeze too. Like, dude, they can't. This might be the last hurrah. So no, but I do think Carson Wentz, just because he hasn't been there.
The jury is still out on Carson Wentz, which I think is fucking ridiculous.
That's harsh.
If you don't see it with Carson Wentz, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't think the jury's thought. They just want to see him do on the biggest stage.
This guy, the most underrated storyline of this year is how well he's played. I know he had the bad stretch, like we mentioned, the Seahawks game
quarterbacks do, yeah.
and the Patriots. But, dude, this guy's been balling the last 4 or 5 games since the Miami loss. And even that game, they didn't lose because of him.
No.
Right? And this dude's been balling. And look what he's doing it with. Practice squad guys, backups.
Greg Ward was undrafted, right?
He's the first, not even undrafted, bro. He was a college quarterback.
Oh, wow.
He was a quarterback for Houston.
Yeah.
This was a team I used to hammer the overs in. First time in NFL history that a quarterback throws for 4,000 yards. I know. Not one wide receiver over 500 yards.
That's impressive.
Not one. Dude, he's doing it with tight ends, backup tight ends.
Quick little thing. Josh Perkins was the 3rd tight end on the Falcons Super Bowl team back in 2016. I think he had 3 catches the whole year. So seeing Josh Perkins out there is very interesting, just because he was a pretty good athlete coming out of Washington, but it's just he's faded out of the league so much, but now he's back. And, with that offense with Ertz, who might not play, and then Goddard, who made some incredible catches against the Giants. Oh, my God. You could tell him and Wentz have a really strong rapport. So, that's at least one big positive. But Philly's also banged up the offense line. Brandon Brooks got stretchered off. Lane Johnson's been injured. These teams are just beat up, but Philly in particular is just, there's so many. They're just limping into the postseason, but it's just the way Wentz is playing and just that home field. I do think that home field is going to play a big factor. I think those are some of the big driving forces. And, of course, their pass rush. They really got after Giants, which I know are not saying a lot, but still, Seattle's offensive line is as shaky as it gets. And, Wilson, he could take some chances, and it doesn't always come to fruition. So maybe you could see Philly capitalize on it.
I do think you're right on this being a tough place to play. The vibe, I always hate when the Giants got to go into Philly. It's just this shit's going to get ugly one way or another. It might either be an ugly performance by the Giants or it's an ugly game. And it's just a tough place to play, man. And they're eating up that shit they're an underdog. They're a 2-point.
The fan base is still fully committed. It's not like a fan base where it's we know we're not really going to make there's just not enough talent. For them, it's just we're taking on the world.
Yeah. So I think I'm going with Philly, man. I think Wentz is playing at a super high level right now, and he's going to pull shit out his ass like he's been doing. I wish Ertz was playing, but, looking ahead a little bit, there's a possibility they might be able to get Aguilar and Deshaun Jackson back next week.
Deshaun Jackson doing drills. Very exciting.
So that'll be huge for them because they have no one they could take to top off the defense. So I'm going with the Eagles, and I'm very excited for this game. Despite it getting ugly, I think this one has the most
it's gonna get ridiculous. First of all, every Seahawks game pretty much gets ridiculous. What you think about
and then because I think from a storyline perspective, because look, I think ultimately it's going to be Green Bay, New Orleans next week, right? So you might have Philly going to play San Francisco, or you might have Seattle, San Francisco round 3.
And the first 2 games were phenomenal.
Which for me, that's the I think you tweeted out how that rivalry's back.
Oh yeah, that rivalry's
100% back. It was so fun, man. I think that's the rivalry of the 2010s.
Oh yeah, it's just based on especially early pretty much I would say from 2012 to 14. Yeah. And once Kaepernick and Harbaugh started slipping.
But even so, there was some CJ Beathard
intense.
games where it came down to the wire and whatnot, and then it got good again. So yeah, I'm excited for it. But I'm going with the Eagles. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Seattle. I think just Philly's secondary is a major concern, and Wilson will capitalize on it. I think this could be a huge game for Tyler Lockett. They're using Lockett a lot more in a slot now, which made a big difference against San Fran. I think they're going to continue doing that. I know just from our interview with Danny Kelly, he was talking about the concern of just not letting Russ loose, dealing with Brian Schottenheimer. But I think at some point they're going to realize, okay, first of all, you can't run on Philly. Philly is one of the best run defense in the league. So at some point it's okay, just give Russ the ball and let him do the thing. And I would assume they learned from their mistakes from last year after just how abysmal they were against Dallas, especially just the conservatism. If you're going to beat Philly, go at their corners, and they have the receivers to do so. So I'm going to believe in them with that, and I think their defense could make some timely plays. I think KJ Wright's starting to play some of his best football, which he's been a little bit injury prone the past few years, and I really like Shaquille Griffin, who's healthy now. So between that, I'm not sure about Clowney status, but I think Seattle will make enough plays to win an entertaining slop fest. That's what I'm coining this to be. So yeah, I think out of all the 4 games, this one is the most unpredictable. Like this one, I just be like, oh, anything could really happen.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, I feel you on that. A part of me wants Seattle to win just so I can see that matchup against San Fran. Seattle is so good, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just
plus, I feel like Philly could get destroyed by San Fran.
Oh, it could get ugly.
Yeah. Well, Seattle just somehow pulls out because Russ.
Yeah. Russ is gonna keep you in games, man. I think Russ has only lost by double digits. I think 3 times in his career.
I know Falcons that 2016 year they blew him out,
right.
So that was one. And that Carolina game in 2015, they came back in that. I don't know what the final score was, but remember, they were
down like 27-0, and they did come back, but then ultimately
So maybe those are some of the losses.
All right, cool. Guys, you can find me at the Lamb Show on all social media outlets. You can find Alan. Where can they find you?
Alan_Stirk. That's ALLEN_STRK.
And you can find Veterans Minimum on all social media outlets at Veterans Minimum. The Patreon, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, everything. YouTube. You can watch this stuff on YouTube too. We're going to be pumping out some original content on there.